Cloud decisions: renting, SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, lift and shift or refactor. In the previous episode, I examined the need to identify the application I want to move and how it's made up, how it's performing, and my goals for moving it to the cloud. And I've hinted that NETSCOUT Visibility can really help by providing that sort of information. But before that, let's consider which cloud service am I going to migrate it to. I'll quickly run through three options: SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. Option 1, SaaS. Forget about that old application and infrastructure it was deployed on and just rent the whole thing. Software as a service it. Office functions, Office 365, business functions, Salesforce, payroll, CRM, you name it. SaaS is great because I don't need to maintain infrastructure, servers, and compute, nor the software that's running my business. Their support is no longer my problem. Sure, I rent the service, now OpEx, subscription, and upfront costs, by user, by size of database, by application modules I use. I know my costs, I can budget easily, and if I have a problem, I just call my provider to fix it. All will be great in the world. Well, maybe. But now I must put a bit of trust, service level agreements with my SaaS provider to make sure everything works fine, is speedy, and if there are issues, to quickly resolve them. I'll get great performance in my monthly reports delivered by my SaaS provider. 5 nines availability, all lights will be green. After all, the fox is guarding the henhouse. However, if my users are having a bad experience, then it's still my responsibility to the business to make sure that it gets fixed, and fixed quickly. So I'm going to have to wave that stick in front of my provider. Another consideration is what happens if I want to deviate a bit from the standard service. Maybe my SaaS provider can't deliver that for me. That could mean my business agility might be compromised. Also, like all applications, I still need to integrate with other partner services, even simple authentication to my on-prem AD servers. My simple life of outsourcing becomes a bit more complex, with more areas of demarcation that I own and that different providers own, with the added bonus of connectivity and communication APIs to manage. So all might not be as easy as it sounds with SaaS. Option 2, platform as a service, or PaaS. Take a database, an application server, a web server, and let that cloud provider manage that. And I'll just layer on my application or database on top of that. That will give me full control of my application with the added bonus of removing the headache of managing servers, security, OS upgrades, database patching, etc. Option 3, the somewhat traditional cloud service, infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. This is the closest to me building my virtual data center in the cloud. I just spin up compute and networking and deploy my OS and my apps just like I'm doing in my private data center. This gives me the ability to just lift and shift my applications into the cloud, or of course, develop new applications, but in the traditional way. Okay, so I've chosen the where and the service or services that my application will be migrated to. But do I just lift and shift, take that old thing and simply place it in the cloud, if that's possible? Or do I refactor it or rewrite it? Refactoring an application is all about taking traditional monolithic applications and splitting them up into individual functions or services called microservices, which do individual tasks, and when brought together, make up the complete application with hopefully the same functionality of the original code, or better. Individual microservices can be debugged, coded, and revisioned much faster as they each have clearly defined function with inputs and outputs. This will allow for streamlining and optimization of the original code. It's a rewrite after all. So bugs and vulnerabilities previously hidden can now be eradicated. The other really exciting thing with microservices is that it can be deployed in individual compute environments, containers, which can be spun up and down and replicated for application scaling on demand. Docker containers can be managed at scale automatically using orchestration platforms such as Kubernetes, managed over IaaS or as a PaaS implementation. This makes way for the so-called continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI/CD frameworks. New versions of code or microservices can be introduced on the fly, old versions taken down, new features spun up. That all sounds brilliant, and if done well, refactoring will give huge improvements to operations and the agility function to respond to the business needs. If done badly, it's a nightmare with more complexity to deal with, more code to debug, another service, containers and Kubernetes, more integration points, more things to go wrong. One more thing, microservices paves the way to a new cloud service, PaaS, or function as a service, so-called serverless computing, where you don't define compute or the containers themselves, just deploy the functions in the cloud. The cloud provider instantly spins these up and down on demand and charges by compute cycles, pay as you compute. So that's it, SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, and FaaS, renting, lifting and shifting, and refactoring. Either way, it's complex stuff to put these new applications into production. No application is an island and communicates not only with itself and its components, microservices, databases, middleware, but also other services, shared services, which could be deployed in the cloud, in another cloud service, on-prem, and more likely than not, all of the above. And all of these have an impact on service availability and performance. Manage that then. In summary, whichever cloud I choose, whatever services I select, and however I've chosen to deploy, lift and shift or refactor, I still need to understand how to measure the success of my deployment. And for that, I need pervasive visibility of my application performance, where and however I choose to deploy it. Visibility to successfully migrate to the cloud with confidence. That's what I need. NETSCOUT provides this visibility through its analysis of packet data, which is everywhere, to generate smart data. So wherever you decide to place your applications and compute to enable your business agility, your digital transformation initiatives, NETSCOUT visibility can be there so that you can keep track of performance throughout your cloud migration journey. I'll talk in detail on NETSCOUT Smart Data in the next video.